You've had dogs your whole life. Maybe your first one was a mutt from the shelter, or a lab that rode shotgun in your truck. You've watched them grow old, wag their tails, lick your face, follow you from room to room. And somewhere along the way, you picked up things you thought were true. That a wagging tail means they're happy. That licking is their way of kissing. That 1 human year equals 7 dog years. But what if I told you a lot of what we believe about dogs? Maybe things we've believed for decades isn't quite right. And worse, what if some of those beliefs are actually getting in the way of taking better care of them? Today's video is all about the most misunderstood dog behaviors, what they really mean, and what your dog has been trying to tell you all along. Backed by science, grounded in experience, and aimed at helping you see your dog with fresh eyes. Because once you understand what's really going on behind the wag, the lick, or the bone, you'll never look at your dog the same way again. So let's kick this off with one of the most common signs. We think we understand that famous tail wag. You see that tail wagging and you smile. It's one of the most familiar sights in the world. A happy dog wagging his tail like he's thrilled to see you. But here's the thing, wagging doesn't always mean happy. Not even close. Most folks think of tail wagging as the dog version of a grin. But dogs are more complex than that. Their tails are part of how they communicate, and just like with people, what they're saying depends on the tone, and in this case, the position, the speed, and even the direction of the wag. A slow, low wag might mean uncertainty or nervousness. A stiff, fast wag held high could be a sign of tension or even aggression. One study found that when dogs wag more to the right, they're generally feeling positive. More to the left, that can signal stress. It's not that tail wagging means nothing, it just doesn't mean one thing. If you only look at the wag, without the rest of their body language, you might miss what your dog is actually trying to tell you. Imagine thinking someone is smiling at you when they're actually gritting their teeth. That's what happens when we assume wagging equals joy. So next time your dog's tail is moving, take a second. Look at their eyes, their posture. Are they leaning forward, backing away? Because that wag could be a handshake or a warning. And that wag isn't the only misunderstood behavior. Let's move on to something that throws off a lot of owners, especially when their dog starts chewing grass like a lawnmower. You're out in the yard, the sun's out, birds are chirping, and your dog suddenly stops and starts chomping grass like it's a salad bar. And your first thought, uh-oh, he must be sick. That's a reaction many of us have. We've heard it for years, dogs eat grass to make themselves throw up. Like it's some kind of built-in remedy. But let's look closer. A study out of UC Davis followed over 2,500 dogs and found something surprising. Only about 8% showed signs of being sick before they ate grass. And only 22% actually vomited afterward, which means the vast majority of grass-eating pups, they're not trying to throw up. They're just chewing. So why do they do it? Boredom, anxiety, curiosity. For some, it's a sensory thing. For others, it's like fidgeting something to do when there's nothing else happening. Kind of like how some folks chew their nails or click a pen. Of course, if your dog is suddenly eating a lot of grass or doing it frantically, it's worth checking in with your vet. Sometimes it can point to an upset stomach, a diet issue, or stress. But in most cases, it's harmless, just strange. So next time you see them go green, don't panic. It's not an emergency, it's probably just your dog being a dog. And speaking of eating, let's talk about something way more dangerous than grass, the food we humans love. And sometimes without thinking, share with our dogs. We've all done it. You're at the table, your dog's giving you those eyes, and you slip them a piece of chicken or maybe a bite of your toast. Feels harmless. Even loving. After all, if it's safe for us, it must be safe for them. Right? Not exactly. Sea dogs aren't built like us. Their digestive systems, their livers, their enzymes, they handle food differently. What's tasty for you might be toxic for them. Take chocolate. Just a little bit of dark chocolate can mess with their heart and nervous system. Grapes and raisins, they can cause kidney failure. Even onions and garlic, things we use in almost every meal, can break down a dog's red blood cells. And it's not just about poison. Some human foods can lead to long-term problems: obesity, pancreatitis, allergies. Even too much fat from scraps can land your dog in an emergency clinic. It's not that we're trying to harm them. Quite the opposite. We think we're sharing, showing love. But love in this case looks more like asking your vet what treats are safe, or finding dog-friendly versions of what you're eating. There's still room for snacks and bonding. You just want to be sure what you're giving them is actually made for them, because your plate might be their poison. And speaking of time, how we measure it for dogs is another myth that's stuck around way too long. Let's tackle the old one: human year equals 7 dog years next. You've heard it your whole life. 1 human year equals 7 dog years. It's printed on birthday cards, pet calendars, even joked about at the vet. But it turns out that simple math, it's way off. Dogs age fast, especially in their early years. According to the American Kennel Club, a 1-year-old dog is closer to a 15-year-old human. By the time they hit 2, they're basically in their mid-20s. After that, the aging slows a bit, with 1 dog year equaling about 5 human years. And it gets more complicated depending on the dog's breed and size. Small dogs tend to live longer and age more slowly after the first couple years. Large breeds, they age faster and have shorter lifespans. A 7-year-old Chihuahua is still running laps. A 7-year-old Great Dane might be entering his final chapter. So, why does this matter? Because if you think of your dog as just 2 or only 5, you might miss signs of aging, slow down checkups, or skip preventive care. Understanding their real stage of life helps you make smarter choices about food, exercise, and vet visits. Your 2-year-old Golden Retriever, he's not a toddler. He's a young adult. And your 8-year-old Shepherd, he's already a senior, whether you're ready for that or not. So forget the math trick. Think stages, not formulas. And speaking of stages, let's look at a behavior that shows up in every one of them from puppy to senior, and tends to confuse, embarrass, or even concern dog owners: humping. It's one of those things dog owners whisper about. Your pup starts humping a pillow, or your leg, or another dog, and you feel yourself flush with secondhand embarrassment. Must be a male thing, you think. He'll grow out of it. But here's the truth. It's not just a boy thing, and it's not always about sex. Female dogs hump too, and often just as much. Sometimes more. It's not about gender. It's about stimulation, excitement, and sometimes dominance. Your dog might hump when guests arrive, or when there's a new smell, or just because they've got energy to burn and don't know where to put it. Same with marking. People assume only male dogs lift their legs to leave their scent. But girl dogs do it too, especially the smaller breeds, or when they're in heat. It's their way of saying, "This spot, it's mine." Dogs don't care about our ideas of manners. They care about territory signals and instincts. What matters is context. If humping is obsessive, interrupting play, or causing tension with other dogs, then it's worth redirecting. But most of the time, it's just another quirky part of dog behavior. No need to scold. No need to panic. Just understand what it is and what it's not. Because behavior doesn't follow gender lines. It follows instinct. And speaking of instincts, let's talk about one that feels ancient and natural: dogs and bones. But are bones really as safe as we think? You picture it clearly, a dog lying happily in the grass, chewing on a big meaty bone. It feels primal, natural, like something dogs were made to do. So it must be good for them. Right? Not always. Sure, chewing is important. Dogs need to chew, it keeps them calm, relieves stress, and even helps clean their teeth. But the problem isn't the chewing, it's what they're chewing on. Real bones, especially cooked ones, can splinter. Those sharp pieces can cut up your dog's mouth, scratch their throat, or even puncture their stomach. Even raw bones carry risks like bacterial contamination, broken teeth, or choking hazards. And boiling bones, that weakens the structure, making them even more likely to break apart dangerously. Some dogs are lucky. They gnaw on a bone and nothing happens. But others end up in emergency surgery because of one innocent-looking snack. That's why many vets now recommend safe alternatives, rubber toys like Kongs or durable nylon chews that won't break teeth or tear up their insides. These give your dog the satisfaction of chewing without the risk that comes with real bones. We want to honor our dog's instincts, but we also want to protect them. And sometimes the two don't line up the way we think. Because what looks natural isn't always safe. And speaking of safety, there's something else many owners do out of love, especially in the summer, that might be doing more harm than good. Let's talk about shaving your dog. It gets hot. The sun's blazing, your dog's panting, and you start thinking, he must be roasting under all that fur. So you grab the clippers. A quick shave should help him cool down. Right. Not quite. That coat your dog's wearing, it's not just decoration. It's insulation built by nature to protect them from heat and cold. Especially for double-coated breeds like retrievers, shepherds, or huskies, that thick underlayer actually helps regulate body temperature. It keeps them warm in the winter, but also blocks heat and UV rays in the summer. When you shave a double-coated dog, you're stripping away that natural cooling system. You're exposing their skin to sunburn, bug bites, and overheating. Worse, it can mess up how their fur grows back, sometimes unevenly, or not at all. Now, some dogs like poodles or certain mixes can be trimmed safely because their hair grows continuously. But most breeds aren't meant to be shaved. If your dog's coat seems too thick for summer, brushing and de-shedding are better ways to help. Always check with your vet or a groomer before you reach for the clippers. It's tempting to treat fur like a sweater they don't need. But for dogs, it's more like climate control, because shaving off the coat can mean shaving off their protection. Now, let's move from what they wear to how they see. You've probably heard dogs are colorblind, but is that really true? Ask just about anyone, and they'll tell you dogs are colorblind. They see the world in black and white. That's just a fact, right? Not really. Dogs do see fewer colors than we do, but they're not living in a black and white movie. Their eyes have 2 types of color receptors, while humans have 3. That means they can see shades of blue and yellow pretty well, but red, orange, and green. Those all blend together into a kind of grayish-brown. To your dog, a red ball on green grass might not stand out at all, but a blue toy that's crystal clear. That's why many trainers and behaviorists recommend picking toys, training tools, and even bedding in colors that dogs can actually distinguish. And it's not just about vision, it's about connection. If your dog can't see the toy you keep throwing, they might lose interest or get frustrated. When you understand what they see, you can meet them where they are, and that makes everything from playtime to training easier and more rewarding. So no, your dog isn't colorblind. But their world does look different. And knowing that helps you see the world a little more like they do. Because seeing like a dog helps you think like one. Now let's shift from how dogs see the world to how they live in it with us. You've probably heard that to raise a good dog, you need to be the alpha. But what does that really mean? For decades, dog training shows books and backyard advice all repeated the same message: you have to be the alpha, the pack leader, the boss. If you're not in charge, your dog will try to take over your house, your couch, maybe even your dinner plate. But here's the thing, that whole idea of dominance. It came from outdated science. Back in the 1970s, researchers studied captive wolves and noticed they fought for top status, so the theory of the alpha wolf was born. But the scientist who introduced it, Dr. David Mech, later realized he was wrong. In the wild wolf packs aren't a battle of egos, they're families. The leaders are just the parents. The pack follows them because of trust, not fear. Dogs may share DNA with wolves, but they've spent thousands of years evolving alongside us. They don't need an alpha. They need clarity, consistency, respect. When you communicate well, set clear boundaries, and meet their needs, they don't try to take over. They relax and follow your lead naturally. That doesn't mean letting your dog do whatever they want. It means ditching the idea that you have to dominate them into obedience. You're not in a power struggle. You're in a relationship. Because good leadership isn't about fear. It's about trust. And when trust is strong, you don't need to wear the crown. Now let's head into the last big myth, the one that makes tired dogs look like good dogs, even when they're not. You've heard it 100 times. A tired dog is a good dog. The logic makes sense. Wear them out, and they won't have the energy to chew your shoes bark at the neighbor or dig holes in the yard. But here's where it gets tricky. Tired doesn't always mean content. And too much physical activity, especially without balance, can backfire. Think of a toddler who missed their nap. They're not calm, they're chaotic. Overtired, overstimulated, and melting down over the wrong color cup. Dogs can be the same. You take them on a long run, they get home, and instead of napping, they're bouncing off the walls or mouthing your hands. That's because physical exhaustion without mental stimulation doesn't lead to peace. It leads to dysregulation. What your dog really needs is both body and brain work. Yes, they need walks and games of fetch, but they also need puzzle toys, sniff time training sessions, and calm problem-solving activities. That's what truly satisfies a dog. That's what makes them feel fulfilled and safe enough to relax. So, sure, exercise matters, but more isn't always better. Smarter is better. Because a well-balanced dog is a good dog, not just a tired one. And now that we've walked through 10 of the most common myths, there's one more we need to talk about. One that feels affectionate, even sweet, but isn't quite what you think. Let's talk about licking. It's one of the most personal things dogs do. You walk in the door, they lick your hands, your face, maybe even your ears. It feels like affection, like a kiss, like love. But licking isn't always emotional. In fact, most of the time it's instinct. In the wild, puppies lick their mother's face to trigger regurgitation. That's how they get their first meals. And in wolves, foxes, and even wild dogs, licking plays a role in social bonding, submission, and communication. It's not about, "I missed you." It's about survival signals and instinctive behavior. That doesn't mean your dog doesn't love you. But when they lick, it's not necessarily because they're overwhelmed with emotion. They might be tasting something. Your sweat, your skin oil, even a crumb left behind. Dogs are drawn to salty, textured, familiar things. You're one of those things. Sometimes licking is a sign of stress or anxiety. It's self-soothing. Other times it's about getting your attention. Notice me. Feed me. I'm bored. It can also be habit reinforced because we laugh, pet them, or smile when they do it. So, what should you do if you're okay with it, no harm done? But if the licking gets obsessive or lands on your mouth, it's okay to gently redirect. Give them a toy, teach a kiss command with limits, or just move away, calmly. Understanding what licking really is helps you make peace with it, or set boundaries without guilt or confusion. Because sometimes love looks a little different than we thought. And maybe that's the most honest thing about dogs. Even when they act out of instinct, they do it with trust. So now you know. Not just about licking, but about wagging, humping, chewing, aging, and all the little things we thought we understood. These weren't just quirks. They were signals, clues, ways your dog's been trying to talk to you sometimes for years. And maybe you're like me. Maybe you're thinking back to that old lab you had in your 30s, the one who licked your hands every night after dinner. Or the shepherd who always wagged high and fast when the doorbell rang, and now you wonder if he was nervous, not thrilled. That's the beauty of learning late. It lets you look back with clarity and forward with purpose. Because when we stop believing the myths, we start noticing the truth. We start seeing the dog that's right in front of us, not the one we assumed we knew. And if you've been with dogs your whole life, you know that trust is built moment by moment, tail by tail, lick by lick. So here's my question for you. Which of these myths surprised you the most? Leave a comment below. I read every one. And if this helped you see your dog in a new way, stick around. In our next video, we're diving into 5 subtle signs your dog is stressed and what you can do to help before it becomes a problem.